Welcome back and thank you for staying with Checkpoint. Now, while most prisoners serve sentences for crimes they committed, a few have harrowing tales of injustice that led them there.
Now, serving a sentence for a crime you did not commit can be daunting. However, this is a story of Teresa Njoroge and Julius Wambua, victims of miscarriages of justice, as narrated by Agutu Rosa.
The sweet taste of freedom is only known by those who lose it. Prison life can break one's spirit, even the It is one thing to be guilty and praying for acquittal or a lenient sentence, and it's another when you are innocent, facing incriminating charges. You have cried until there are no more tears left. You have prayed and begged God to remove the charges. You have asked yourself so many questions. The constant one being, why me? Why would someone lie just to destroy my life? This is the story of Teresa Njoroge and Julius Wambua. My name is Agutu Rosa.
I got maliciously arrested, falsely accused, and ended up being wrongfully incarcerated to serve a 1-year sentence for a crime that I hadn't committed, and a sentence that I had to serve with my then 3-month-old daughter. I worked within the financial sector and I handled a fraudulent transaction unknowingly. I wasn't the only one who handled that transaction. It was a couple of us, but unfortunately, using the words of the arresting officer, he told me on the day of my arrest, "You have been handpicked to carry the cross on behalf of the bank for this transaction."
Teresa had 3 counts of theft and another one for conspiracy. The magistrate dropped all charges of theft. She had not stolen the money and there was no evidence that she benefited from the proceeds. However, she was convicted to serve a 1-year sentence on the basis of potential conspiracy. Her life and that of her daughter changed. The emotional scars are still fresh and her eyes bear this evidence.
Prison is very tough. It breaks you. It's very, very tough. From the environment where you're sleeping, the language, the food, the conditions in which you sleep. It's this one big cell where, so for me, because I had my daughter, I was in the cell that had women with their children, and you only have one little toilet and you use that as the toilet. That's where you bathe, that's where you clean whatever you need to clean.
The embarrassing long moments that came with the reality of want. Menstrual hygiene was a luxury, with some women even forced to share the few available but torn underwear.
It takes away any dignity. The little esteem that you had as a woman is just taken away. But the most hurtful part is that your children are watching all this, and this is what they carry for the rest of their lives.
Through well wishers, they would get reusable sanitary towels and panties. But effect on children still haunts Teresa.
Bringing up a child behind bars, whether it's the nutrition, whether it's the environment, we know of prison culture, the prison language. So that the language that this child is learning as they begin to learn how to talk is vulgar language, is abusive language.
Education is also a major factor. Currently, the child is supposed to leave prison when they are 4 years old, when the mother is serving a longer sentence.
That child will leave and go into a world that they never had an idea about without their primary caregiver, their mother, and they're separated. So it's hurtful and it really pains.
Teresa served 8 of 12 months sentence due to good conduct. She was sentenced on 4th March 2011 and released on 4th November 2011.
Getting a date in court is an uphill task. So it's not like as I was serving the 1 year, I was getting dates in court. So, time was passing and no date yet. So I completed my sentence before we could get to the conclusion of the appeal.
Meanwhile, after 1.5 years, she was vindicated.
Having a court case is financially draining, it's emotionally draining, physically draining. Let me tell you, knowing that I'm going to court, you've got a lot of fear. If you don't win, then it's not just a loss. You also have to pay the costs you've taken the other party through.
She was compensated around 5 million shillings. Teresa started an organization for women who were in prison. The organization also provides technical training for the women. The story is different for Julius Wambua, who served more than a decade in prison. Julius was sentenced for defiling his daughter, Dorcas. The court relied on 2 medical reports and witness accounts from the girl and her 10-year-old sister. In 2017, his daughter, who later came to reveal her identity as Dorcas, went to Standard Group headquarters on Mombasa Road and had a story published by the Nairobian. She confessed that her father did not defile her. She further revealed that she was actually coached by her mother to lie. With Dorcas at the very same headquarters on Mombasa Road. The baby she's carrying is her daughter, and the man, her husband. The now 28-year-old still maintains that she was coached to have her father incarcerated so that the mother could acquire the family land. Her parents had a bitter dispute that resulted in a separation. The mother moved to Nairobi from Machakos, while the father of penetration, proof that the complainant is a child, and proof that the accused was indeed properly identified as the perpetrator. Dr. Sauda Faruqi, an obstetrician gynecologist, says after defilement, the victim usually needs to come to hospital. A form which details all injuries is filled. The form also has a human diagram, and so you mark where the injuries are. It needs to be identified if there's any bite, any marks, and any bruises. The location is also
Sinema tu ndio kwetu hata ilitoka Matu, Lakini pale kotini niliposikia ushahidi wa daktari kutoka Nairobi, alisema ya kwamba nilidefile mtoto. Na ile barua ilitoka Nairobi ya huyo daktari ndio imefanya mama mtoto apeleke huyo mtoto akapimwe tena Matu. Daktari wa Matu alipokuja kotini kutoa ushahidi, alisema hiyo barua ilikuwa na inaitwa contradiction mingi sana. Na akasema aliona hii kesi ni kuprimiwa, ilipeimiwa. Na yeye alikataana na hii kesi na hii barua. Na alipopima mtoto hakuona chochote, na hakuona mtoto kama alifanywa chochote.
Wambua also claims that his son, who is now deceased, went to their area chief and told him how everything was planned to have him incarcerated.
Subchief akanipigia simu, nikaenda pale, akanielezea na huyo mtoto akiwa hapo akatuelezea, na akaniambia niende nikaripoti kwa children officer. Na nikaenda na hiyo kijana huko, akaenda akaeleza kwa maofisa ya children officer. Akaelezea vile kesi imeprimiwa na vile kumepangwa na ikaandikwa. Nafikiri nilipewa hiyo barua, sababu nilipeana mbele ya mahakama. Na hao watu waliitwa na mahakama wakakataa kuja. Lakini ile barua nilipeana kotini.
After being released, Wambua was promised parcels of land by different people, while others promised to donate construction material for his house. However, Wambua says that none of them fulfilled their promise. Wambua is a trained cobbler, an art he acquired in prison. But is now living in the pain of stigma since finding employment as a former prisoner is not easy.
Wakati ulifika nikasema hata ni heri wakati ilikuwa kolokoloni. Kwa sababu gani? Nilikumbana na mashida ambao sijawahi kumbana naye tangu nizaliwe. Kitu la kwanza nilipotoka, mawazo ilikuwa inaniuliza unatoka uende wapi? Hauna mahali pa kuishi. Watu wenu hawana mahali pa kuishi. Unatoka uende wapi?
Practicing psychologist Jackie Gado says for a child to accept to take part in incarcerating the father, she must have been fed negative things about the father.
I can imagine the kind of narcissistic tendencies that this woman had. And for her to be able to blackmail her daughter into creating this kind of diabolical stories towards her dad is just unimaginable. So I can imagine, number one, she must have been scared to death. Like, you have to say this. If you don't, there'll be consequences. If you don't take, if you don't take my side, and probably she'd been given a lot of false narratives about the dad. Because children, there's a way they just create their own necessity. They need to have a sit down. Worry towards her dad, and also the siblings that are left behind. Everybody needs to give their side of the story, because as it is, even the mother, as vile and as evil as she is, she has a side of the story. All right? And this man as well, he has a side of the story that only he knows, and these children as well. But this conversation cannot happen without a mediator, because there's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of repressed emotions. There's a lot of emotional outbursts.
But success comes only to those who choose to cling to the healing of time while engaging each other. So, how does one manage life out of prison? According to probation officer Andrew Kanyotu, reintegration and resettlement needs some interventions, where offenders are enabled to cope and to overcome various social, economic, and psychological pressure. This assessment commences when a referral is received from a court. There are reports generated at a pre-release stage, provision of specialized rehabilitation programs such as counseling and drug resistance, and enrollment to access affordable health. The community plays a role in offender reintegration. The probation officer will consider the following in exploring the role of the community in offenders: understanding community cultural diversity, promotion of community ties, recognizing community leadership, identifying the community. The probation officer will also assist in shaping the public perception and providing protection to the offender, managing stigma, identifying and exploiting locally available community resources for empowerment, facilitating smooth entry process, and identifying protective factors and community social support systems. Sylvia Morwabe, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, says wrongful convictions often stem from wrongful prosecutions.
Once there's a claim of either rape or defilement, this person, and now the crime scene is the body. So the victim has to undergo the medical. So attend a hospitali apate the medical test that will be run by the doctor, and then the P3 form that is supposed to be filled also by the police doctor, which will show, okay, was there any force, was there any penetration, was there traces of, semen or anything that were done. Now, in most cases, what I have seen is there's not that DNA to say that, yes, there was semen, but is this semen linked to this person that we are saying is the perpetrator in this case? Very few cases does that happen.
Article 50, Sub-Article 6 of the Kenyan Constitution states that a case can be reopened if there is new and compelling evidence that the accused can prove their innocence. Muganda Innocent, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, says wrongful conviction is when a court or a judge has found that on the basis of evidence that has been presented before the court, the person who took the plea on specific charges has been found on beyond reasonable doubt to be guilty of the charges that were read to him. When someone is wrongfully convicted, what is the intervention procedure?
We have a very robust constitution. Article 50 talks about the right for you to be protected, and you're given a right in Article 50 to lodge an appeal. There is no limit to the appeal process.
Muganda adds the uniqueness of Article 50 is that it talks about the High Court having a power to revise, and the wordings in it would even indicate that even if the Court of Appeal found one to be guilty, the High Court still has a right if fresh evidence is brought. Victor Juma Owiti, the Principal Prosecution Counsel at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, ODPP, says the investigative role and the prosecutorial roles are two distinct roles. One, under National Police Service, headed by Inspector General of Police, under which there's the DCI, Director of Criminal Investigations, and then the prosecutorial arm, which is under the ODPP.
Investigations and prosecutions are distinct even under the Constitution, which is very important. And there are very many court cases which have underlined the importance of the distinction, that every arm of the government should stick to their rules so that there is no conflict.
Investigations are the entry to criminal cases. So how do they arise? Reports can be made directly to the investigative agencies or to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The Director of Public Prosecutions has the power to direct the Inspector General of Police, under whom the investigations fall.
This is not a request. The DPP actually has powers under Article 157, Sub-Article 6 of the Constitution, to direct the Inspector General of Police to carry out investigations. While the DPP can direct the Inspector General to carry out investigations, the DPP does not have powers to tell the DCI or the Inspector General of how to carry out the investigations. There's a distinction. So you have powers to direct them to carry out investigations, but you don't have powers to direct them on how to carry out the investigations. But you can direct them within which time.
The Inspector General of Police or Director of Criminal Investigations, which falls under him, will visit the crime scene to seek out possible witnesses and exhibits. These will be collected and safeguarded.
All these investigations end up with the Director of Public Prosecutions, which is the office where I work. Then the DPP is empowered, either directly or through his officers like myself, to independently look at the file. So once we receive that file, I am expected to look into that file independently, not looking at the summary, only the summary by the police or the investigators, but apply my mind to it, look at, find out if the witnesses who have been brought are credible, because some witnesses are not credible.
However, one would wonder how witnesses are selected. Owiti says when the police are carrying out investigations, they make witnesses record statements. Initially, they will not know who will eventually become a witness or a suspect. The first statement is called a plain statement.
Police themselves during the investigations will analyze the statements and say, no, These ones are just mere bystanders. These ones were not even here, so we are done with them. These ones were around, but they are not related to the offense. They didn't commit it. This person may have committed this offense, Once the investigators realize that this person may have committed the offense, they record a second statement. Now that statement changes from a plain statement to a statement under inquiry, because now we are going to ask you targeted questions.
If you are not able to explain yourself, now you become a suspect. Then you record a third statement cautioning you, meaning you have the right to remain silent because anything you say can and may be used against you. The DPP will look at the file, and where there are gaps, there will be a back and forth. That is why the period between investigation and prosecution may take more than a year. The DPP will draw up the charge sheet, that is if it's in the magistrate court. In the High Court, it's called an information. The court gives it a number and it becomes a criminal case.
The first thing that will be done is you'll be asked the language that you understand. Once you say the language, the charge sheet will be read to you, or the information will be read to you. And if you are a child or a person who or the case is a serious, extremely serious case, then the court should again give you an advocate before we start. Then the charges will be read. Useme kama ni kweli, true or false. If it's true, then you will be convicted. You will be asked to mitigate, kutoa malilio. And a few times people don't understand what kutoa malilio. There are people who have actually cried literally. It means just to tell the court why you should be treated with leniency. That's what it's called, to mitigate. But if you say not guilty, then the case goes through trial. And trial, we mean hearing, where the prosecutor will now call those witnesses who had recorded statements, are called one by one. I will just be giving him cues and he will tell the story. As soon as he's done telling the story, the accused person has an opportunity to ask him tough questions, and the accused can ask him anything.
A cross-examination will be done. Once done, the court will make a determination on the basis of prosecution testimony whether there's a case to answer or not. If there's no case to answer, you will be acquitted. If there's a case to answer, you'll be asked to prepare your defense.
If the court finds that you are guilty, then now you are convicted. To be convicted simply means that you have been found guilty. The court pronounces that you are found guilty, so you are convicted. Upon conviction, you can either be asked to pay a fine or to go to prison. You can be sentenced to prison without the option of a fine if the offense is very serious.
If the case was in the magistrate court, you can appeal to the High Court. The rulings and appeal may go on until the apex court, the Supreme Court, makes the final decision. However, most criminal cases often are determined by the lower courts. Some suspects are granted bails and bonds to pursue their cases while enjoying some form of freedom. But most are often in remand while their cases are heard and determined. According to a 2020 report by Statista, up to 86,000 people are jailed in Kenya every year. But to note that some of these people are imprisoned on framed-up charges is unsettling dark side of the criminal justice system. But for those who lose their cases and land in prison, whether falsely accused or not, a sobering yet depressing reality awaits them. Once in prison, life is always what it is and will always remain what it is. Agutu Rosa, KT News.
Hatutaki